BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here.
What's up, Tiger fans? Welcome to another episode of Tiger Talk TV. I am the Corey C, along with Ken Clark. Make sure you guys turn on the notifications and subscribe to the podcast so you do not miss a single upcoming episode. You can find us on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to follow the show and tell every Tiger that you know. And remember, when you support Tiger Talk TV, it all helps the cause. I love Jackson State University. KC 1400, what's up?
Corey, what's up, man? You know what? As many times as we do this, I'm still impressed by the fact that it's not a recording. You do it you literally do this at the same tone, the same way. It's almost sound like a recording. Most people don't know you do it live, though.
Yeah, I can say it in my sleep, man. And my daughters, they say it as well. They're walking around the house saying it. So they hear me do it so much.
Yes,
but no, man. Hey, look, the NFL draft is coming up, and we have a few Tigers hoping to hear their name called during the draft, or at least get a phone call right after the draft. So we brought in a very special guest who will be representing two of our Tigers throughout the process. None other than Miss Rasheeda Liberty, Lady Lib Sports Entertainment.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I've fallen in love with Jackson State even more over these last few months.
Now you can officially say I love now, right?
You can.
I love. And believe me, when I run into Jackson State alumni, they let me know, I love Jackson.
Absolutely. Welcome on. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome. We've been hoping to have you on because we can imagine this is a busy time of the year for you with the draft approaching. And two of the individuals who are keeping you busy are very near and dear to Tiger fans' hearts. We're talking about Mr. Robert McDaniel and Mr. Irv Mulligan. You're representing them throughout this process. So we want to definitely hear all about that process, give us some stories as well. But first, let's talk about Miss Liberty. We want to get to know you. Tell us your background and your story. What inspired you to become an agent, and what was the journey like getting into the industry?
Well, a lot of people ask me, like, what made you translate some of your, I would say, transferable skills over to the world of representation. So I've typically been a leader in Fortune 100 companies, building brands, building companies for a long time. I worked for Mars. You may know Mars with the candy company.
Oh, yeah.
They had the opportunity to send me to London Business School, which was also a CEO track for corporate leadership in the build brand. So I see my brands all over the world that I've helped create, either where it was in a lab in Austria, in a lab in Australia, building the marketing strategy for them. And so my husband has always been in football. He is a former student athlete, played at Temple University, very connected to all the NFL guys. And like these people have been ingrained in our family for a long time. And so I started falling in love with football. And he said, I keep bringing these guys to the house. You take care of them. You give sound advice. You're a good business leader. You have negotiation skills. I have an accounting degree by trade, an MBA, attended law school. Like I said, went to London Business School for high performing negotiations. So I knew how to market, sell, and drive a brand. And he was like, you need to take that and translate it to these guys. So that's been on my head for years. And then when George Floyd happened,
okay,
it was a turning point because the concept was already developed like in 2018. But when the George Floyd situation happened, I was like, oh no, I got to do something for my brothers. I got to do something to really set them up for the longevity of the health of their families, and this generational. Right. And so I said, I'm going to go ahead and pursue the representation track on a more serious level. So I went to Agency Academy in 2018, did some work here with what is now Chris Cabot, who is Patrick Mahomes' agent.
Okay.
He was training me at that time, actually, right when he got Pat. So I got to see like kind of what he was doing with.
Right
and I was like, no, I don't know if I want. And in that Agency Academy, I won most of the negotiations. Vince Young was, we had to present to him and act as if we were agents, an agent team. And I listened to his story and we crafted our little story. We did our mock and he was like, Liberty, man, if I had Liberty back in the day, you know? And I was like, okay, then we did a mock negotiation with Doug Williams for the Commanders for a quarterback. And our quarterback won the deal on our team. And it was, once again, it was like Liberty, that kid, you know, she was really good, you know? So I sat on that for a while and then I took the agency exam, and my first client that came over, he actually terminated his relationship with a very, very large agency.
Wow.
He was in the 2019 draft class and he came over with me and was like, let's rock. And we've been rocking ever since. So, and then that just kind of took off. So I will say, I give my husband a lot of credit for pushing me to really dive into this space.
That's pretty good stuff. I actually know Vince. I live in Austin 7 years and got on the basketball court with him, hooped a little bit. So got some stories to tell. Vince is an intense, he's an intense gentleman. So, you know, shout out to Vince and all the Longhorns over in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
What I want to do is let's expand into Lady Lib Sports and Entertainment. So let's talk about now that you've gone through the track, you're making I guess I could say 180, and you're switching up all the way around, you know, doing something professionally. How did Lady Lib come about? Was that something your husband was doing, or was that your own doing and creation? I want to put my name on this. This is my thing. Let's talk about the name. When did it come about? How did you come up with that name? Give us all the ins and outs of that.
At first, we went through a series of names. I worked with a PR team to help me with that. And it was like, what do you want to be? And I was like, well, we want to be, I'll be honest, at that time, I was like, I want to be a completely Black female organization.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, for the longevity of the organization, we don't want to create exclusion either. But what you want to do is make sure that people know that a woman is attached in a big way. Okay. Liberty, there's not a lot of Black liberties in the world, right? I thank God for the man that attached me to the name, right? But Liberty, using Lady Lib, the alliteration, it was just easy. And so Lady Lib, you knew that it was a lady involved. And then you was like, what's up with this Lib thing? Liberty. So I want to always connect my name. Now, when I brought in male interns and I brought in a male scouting coordinator and things like that, they were like, yeah, they're not all female. And I told them I'm still just only going to show female on the website. And they were like, we're going to sue you. So we're not completely all female organization, but the agents are all females.
Okay.
You know what? I'm the ultimate girl dad. Corey is too. Yeah, so we're not going to fret. I'm going to make sure my daughter watch this and say, see, you need to pay attention to this young lady right here. She's doing big things.
Yep. And along those lines, happy belated Women in Sports Day. I know that was
yes.
Awesome. Rasheeda, I know part of your philosophy is to lay out an individual plan for each player that you're looking to represent, and you tell them what you can do for them specifically, and you caution the players about being sold by an agency just on what players they're already representing or what they've done for other players. So why is that so important to you?
I think every player needs to be treated individual. And I really do try to keep our players very individual and distinct. I made a mistake very early on in the agency world of kind of mixing the players and saying you're a group and we're going to all get on a group call. Players in this business, I learned, is very ego driven.
Yes.
Everybody wants to feel special. And so when we're one-on-one, I make them feel special. There's some things we do joint, like Super Bowl activations and things like that. But for the most part, when it's one-on-one, it's your relationship. So as an agency, when I hear people saying, well, they represent so-and-so, they represent so-and-so, it's not about, agents can't really agent you into the NFL. And that is a hard thing to sell because it's kind of an oxymoron. It's a misnomer that agents can agent you in. What an agent does is they're your biggest advocate in the space, and they show the things that you don't know. So it's about relationship. But if you get out there as a running back and you run a 5.2, I'm not agenting you into the NFL. Nobody's taking you. There's no agent in this country that can do that. And there's no agent in the country that's going to bring you from being a late round to a first round. Never has happened in the history of the NFL. It doesn't happen. So I like to tell guys, don't be sold by the bells and whistles of who they represent. It is good that they can negotiate, right? But what I say is look for it when you're a late round guy or a Paso PFA or a camp guy that's got to earn that spot. You better find the agents that have a history of putting those guys in the league, not the first rounder, because he didn't have to do much for the first rounder. You don't have to do much for the second rounder. Don't have to do much for the third, fourth, fifth. But when you get down in those 6 or the 6, 7 round PFA rookie mini camp, those agents are the ones that had the skill that gets you where you need to be to make sure that you're marketed properly, advocated properly, and you get into that camp to prove yourself.
Awesome. So Rasheeda, what do you look for in a client? Like what is your selection process when you're determining, hey, this is an athlete that I want to go after, I want to be a part of this Lady Lib Sports and Entertainment agency? Like talk to us a little bit about how do you select which athletes you want to work with?
We do a long rubric is what I would call it. The rubric is the first thing is height, weight, speed.
Okay.
That's automatic. You got to check those boxes. I can't really take a 5'4" running back. I can't take a 5'8" DN, even though I had a very small DN one year and we got him to the CFL from HBCU. But for the most part, height, weight, and speed have to add up. Because you got to actually meet the NFL requirements where I know you're going to turn green on all those levels. The next thing is skill. So, and it's skill that's exceptional at the level in which you're at. So you just can't have great production at your school. You have to show me skill that matches the production against very competitive teams or a draftable side team on the other side. Like if you're a running back, I got to know that you have exceeded expectations against the linebacker that's on that P4 team.
Okay.
So skill, production, and then the underlying is always character. And believe it or not, a lot of guys think they can hide character. You can't hide character. I can call a team and they're gonna give me the inside scoop. They don't tell me who your mama is, who your daddy is, what your family business is, which one of your cousins, how much weed you smoke. They're gonna tell me everything, but the guys will never know. But that investigative team for the NFL is so tight. So the character has to be there. Whether you're a captain, how well do your coaches speak about you? What's your work ethic? So sometimes we show up at practices in the stands and you don't even know, but we watch how you behave with your teammates. Are you, oh God, there's just so many pieces. Then when we get into the NFL conversation, we talk more about bowls. What's my opportunity to make sure you're in a bowl? What's my opportunity to make sure that you're in a pro day? So sometimes smaller schools, they don't have pro days. So that makes it very difficult for me to get a team to even look at you if I can't even get you to show up at a pro day. I can't get you tested. And then I shop you to the UFL, CFL as well. So if the CFL, UFL are like, ooh, I'm interested, I know I have a backup plan if the NFL doesn't work out. So there's a whole list of things that we go through. And I also want to know how you speak. I want to know if you're a transfer guy, like you transfer 3-4 times. If you transfer 3-4 times, you're going to leave me too on the second contract because you just a money chaser. I like that. And I also, the big thing, I need to know that they have a degree.
Okay.
Okay.
I rarely sign a guy without a degree. I think we maybe signed 2 or 3 in my time. Why? Because they're extremely desperate because they have nothing to fall back on. And that commitment of education, if you don't have that basis, it's going to be very hard to learn a playbook also.
You talked about some of the smaller schools not having pro days. And then I know before the interview, you and I were talking offline about you getting ready for the Big 12 pro day in Dallas. But you're also a huge advocate for HBCU players, and your agency has a commitment of representing an HBCU player every year. Why is that so important to you, and when did that start?
It started from day one. My very first HBCU player was Ryan McDaniel out of North Carolina Central. He was my first 90-man contract player.
Nice.
And so I'll never forget that. But I always started with HBCU players. I went to the FCS Bowl. And that was where I kind of got my start. I said, I'm going to start with small school guys because there's talent there. And the biggest thing that they're missing is advocacy. And so I know I'm a strong advocate, and I know I'm a strong marketer, and I'm a strong brand builder. And so some of the guys at the bigger schools, they got all that. But it was these guys that I'm like, they have the talent. They just need a little amplification on the back end to get them where they need to be. And so that's where I made my commitment to HBCUs. I never went to a HBCU. So a lot of people are like, you went to HBCU? No, never went to HBCU. But I feel like that is a ground that needs to be sown into. And I want to continue to build that legacy there. I should have went there.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. That kind of segues into one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is two of the clients that played for, obviously, I Love, Robert McDaniel and Irv Mulligan. Let's talk about, and I know this is a two-part, so you can take your time and expound on both of them, but let's talk about how those relationships came about and, what were some of the things that stood out with them that made you say, hey, I want to represent these two young men.
Now, okay, so what's very interesting is I know running backs are tough. They are tough to get into the NFL because the NFL only drafts anywhere from 16 to 20 a year.
Okay.
So I knew, like, if I go after a running back, but there was so much talent in Irv, I was like, I don't know if he'll get drafted, but I know he'll make a camp. There's something special about this guy. And then I started studying him and I started watching a little bit of his videos. I got a lot of his background information and understood what was going on, like personal life, things like that. And I said, I'm gonna hunt this guy down. And he kind of was like, yeah, I'll get back to you. Yeah, I'll get back to you, and I gotta get through what I'm working on, and I'll get back to you. So he kind of backburnered me for a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about Irv.
That sounds like
guy right there. That's my guy. Right? That sounds just like him too.
I said, this dude Hollywood, And so one day he said, hey, I got about 10, 15 minutes. 10, 15 minutes. There's so many of y'all, coming after me. I gotta give you 10, 15 minutes. and he was hoarse. He was coming from Celebration Bowl.
Okay.
And he was hoarse. So I knew that they had a good time the night before.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And he said, my voice is hurting or whatever. I'll give you 10 minutes. So he was driving home and we stayed on the phone. I said, okay, this 10, 15 minutes. Before you knew it, it was like an hour and 15, hour and a half. He talking with that squeaky voice. He already has a strong accent, but it got squeaky. I said, you sound like little Mike Tyson. But we laughed, we talked. He opened up. I opened up, and I told him my why. He told me his why. He told me I really wanted a female agent. And we just bonded and connected. And I knew hanging up that call, I was like, I want to rep him. Because sometimes when you get on a call, you're like, I'll do it if I have to. You know what I mean? Like I kind of but do it if I have to is not a good relationship. I learned that very early. So I knew I wanted to rep him. We gave him a sound offer. He negotiated what he thought needed to happen, and we made it happen. And that was Irv. Rob was a little different. Rob knew that I had represented a member of his fraternity a couple of years back.
Okay. And
so my name circulated in that fraternity, in Alpha Phi Alpha. I have to just say it.
I was just about to say, go ahead and shout him out.
and so they knew me. And so he said, my frat from over here knows you, and they kind of talked about you. So I kind of knew who you were, and I trust you because of how you took care of him. So that relationship with the fraternity and how I took care of that other player very well, he just was like, I know you. And so I trust you. But he wasn't an easy sell at first either, right? I kind of was like, we introduced him to our team and things like that. And he was like, oh, I'm sold. We were trying to go after one more player that was in the MEAC. And that didn't work out, right? He made another choice, but we really wanted him too. So we would have possibly represented 3 HBCU players this year, which would have been unusual because we only say 1. But Irv and Rob, just the connection, the level of trust, what we felt like we could do for them, trusting. I knew that they were teammates, so that's always an awkward position because if one teammate feels like one is getting more than the other, sometimes that could be a little competitive, but very respectful young men. They both understand the lane and the journey that each of them have.
Nice.
Yep. Share what you can about some of those initial conversations with them and just how you can help them in your plan for them.
Yeah. So one of the things that we sell, and I shouldn't say sell, but I bring my whole crew.
Okay.
To call. The initial call is kind of like, hey, how you doing? Just intro everybody, exit the call. But then when it's time to have the call, we usually introduce them to the trainers. We introduce them to their media team. We introduce them to their legal team. And we introduce them to myself and the agency side of the business. We talk through our successes, even though talking through your successes doesn't necessarily translate to them. And that's back to what I'm like, we rep this person. We don't get into the details of who we rep. But what we say is we have successfully negotiated with 25 of the 32 NFL teams. So relationship check. Do y'all have a relationship? Yes, we had a relationship. Yes, absolutely. I've had players on 7 of the 9 CFL teams. I've had players on 50% of the UFL teams. So, and this is a journey track. We're not only going to sell you to the NFL, but we're also going to sell you to other orgs that feel like other football organizations that feel like the NFL may feel like you need one more chance, like one more look is what they call it. They call it a second time. I'll check them out on a second time. What that means is I want to go see them play somewhere else, and then I may pull them back. Okay. And what our success has been with translating guys there. And then we set them up with the Omni plan of this is how your housing is going to work. This is how your stipend is going to work. This is how here are the combine events that you're going to go to. Oh, you don't have the HBCU combine? Let me go get that for you. Oh, you want to go to Shrine? Let me see if you're in Shrine yet or senior. And we kind of work those deals. And then I give them a full scout report. The official, not some made up, pull some stuff on the internet. I'm talking to NFL voices, like what this team specifically said about you. And then I tell them, this is why we're sending you to this training. Your speed is an issue. I got to send you over here. Your strength is an issue. I got to send you over here. And this is the trainer that's going to work with you. And I share that scout report with that trainer. And then we kind of lock it all in. You sign and we done. We on our way.
You just touched on something that I want to expand a little bit on. You talked about the HBCU Combine. How significant was it for them to go to the HBCU Combine? And is the HBCU Combine actually conducted by the NFL itself?
Yes, the NFL runs the HBCU Combine. A lot of people get it mixed up that the HBCU Legacy Bowl is run by the NFL. The NFL is a funder. But the NFL Combine is run by the front office or the office, corporate office of the NFL. They come in that Monday and they run it from end to end. Now, Mark Gorzak, a lot of people see Mark. I call him Marky Mark. He calls me Liberty. But Mark runs the 40 at the National NFL Combine, and he runs the same 40. He does the timing at the HBCU Combine.
Okay.
So I talked to a lot of agents through this process who have asked, like, why do you keep sending your guys there? And I'm like, you tell me if 32 teams are going to be at your guys' pro day. And I'm going to tell you they're not. So where are you going to get top brass mixed with national scouts, with area scouts, and with scouting interns and an NFL network at your pro day? You're not going to get it. So missing the HBCU Combine or not participating in the HBCU Combine, seeming as if you blew off the NFL, is not a good look for any HBCU player.
Yeah,
it is. I heard the comments. I talked to the scouts, and with some people that they perceived were arrogant enough that they would come down there to see them and that they would not test, they did not appreciate it, and it was well talked about through their organizations.
You know what? When we went down for the HBCU Legacy Bowl, that conversation actually lingered. In talking to some of the scouts who were down there, talking about players that decided to punt on the HBCU combine, and it just wasn't received very well. So
it's not. It's not. And the question that comes up often, have you, guys have asked, and like I said, I talked to other agents because they know the history, right? I had a player that actually was injured in the HBCU Legacy Bowl. And so that has radiated all throughout all bowls, right? On what that can mean. But what I told him is you can't be scared to play. Because are you scared to go to OTAs? Are you scared of camp? Are you scared of? You cannot be scared to take the field and show what you can do. But I would say that my strategy is to never let another player get in front of my player. With conversation, with talk, with testing out there early, because guess what? Those Zoom calls are happening right now. The coaches are calling my players right now. You know why? Because they had those test results in front of them. And the guys that are waiting on their pro day, you already let my guy get in front of you with 23 teams.
Okay. I like that. Okay.
So we'll see how it shakes out.
Rasheeda, you talked about talking to teams about the players before representing them, and then you also talked about putting a plan together for each player. So considering that, what was Irv looking to showcase to scouts at the HBCU Combine and the HBCU Legacy Bowl week?
I love when I read his scout report to him for the first time, and he said, that just gives me energy, right? That just fuels me up. That just makes me want, it got him fired up a little bit, because I told him the scout report is not meant to tell you how great you are. The scout report is always to tell you your weaknesses and deficits. And two that lingered was not that he didn't do it well. It was that they had not had proof of it. And that was whether or not he can receive the ball in the backfield and whether he could block, effectively. And so our strategy going into the combine was to demonstrate that strength and blocking, and actually make sure that you show them that you can receive that ball. And explain, and we spent time explaining to teams, explain that because he was the workhorse of Jackson State on the run game, that he was not utilizing those ways. However, he has a skill, and I want you to come by and check it out. So when we preset the meetings and the interviews and things like that, we had already teed up every team one by one with a strategy to say, oh, and yeah, you get an opportunity to see him do. And it's like, oh, okay. And he's more than just a running back. Oh, can he play special teams? You come check him out and see special teams. So we did a pre-sale on all 32 teams before the actual combine.
Awesome. So post combine, is there, from what you can share, what was some of the feedback that the scouts gave Irv after you guys went in with a good game plan? How well was that game plan received after it was executed?
It was executed. I feel like with Irv specifically, some of the feedback, and I have to think, they loved. Let me back up. With Irv, they loved his authenticity and realness of who he was on and off the field. So I think a surprise for them was how much personality he had.
Oh yeah.
And they loved it. He checked the box on being versatile, specifically with the receiving and blocking. So if you notice, you had to be there, but during the practices, when he was doing those specific drills, or they were looking at, the different sessions that they had, they paid a lot of attention to what he was doing in those spaces. Personally, when you look at fit for organization, that personality was strong for them. They said they loved how he celebrated and cheered his teammates on, how he stayed really close to the coaches, meaning that he was very, very close to the coaching staff. Whenever they were doing drills, he was always standing right next to the coach. And whenever another player did something well, he celebrated and cheered them on. He conducted himself as a professional, buttoned up, and that's why, and he stayed around and didn't pack up his stuff right away. That allowed him to float and meet a lot of the scouts in very one-on-one, non-interview settings, just to chat with them, talk with them. He did a good job of working the room and doing those soft skill things that mean a lot when they're trying to decide who to fit in that locker room.
And Rasheeda, the same question, but this time about Rob. What was he looking to showcase to the scouts at the combine and the Legacy Bowl week?
Rob, okay, so Rob was a little interesting because there were some scouts who were like, Rob who? And I was like, oh, y'all don't know Rob McDaniel? So coming into the draft, into the combine, we spent time introducing Rob. And I remember, I won't say what team, but if he sees this, he gonna be like, you know what? So he said, I don't know about the safety. I don't know if I'm interested in the safety. I said, okay. I said, have you looked at his film? And he said, I think a couple of my guys went down there and wrote it up, and I don't really see. Yeah, I said, okay, all right. So I get to, he texts me after the combine and said, oh, the safety tested well. I didn't respond.
Okay.
I get to the combine and I feel this tug on my arm on Wednesday of the national combine. And he's like, oh, we need to talk about the safety. We need to talk about the safety. I said, oh, okay. And so I said at 12:04 a.m., this team called and said they had just got out of their meetings and asked me, where was I? We want to come and talk about the safety. So I was like, now we talking. Don't tell me, bro. I know what I'm talking about. So I think there were some teams that had to be introduced to him. But I believe when Rob walked out on that field and they saw him, they were like, if he can do what I think we just saw in that film, and he looks like that, and he tests like this, I believe I love.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
That's it. Like he made the statement, but there was a lot of introduction of him coming in. And then I think when they started to put all the pieces together, there were teams going, we need to go look again, right? And they did. And so the phone is ringing.
Same question to add to that. Scouts feedback. Like, what was some of the feedback in relation to that?
Yeah, I think he passed. The biggest thing for them was, is he really 6'2"? Because there's a lot of schools who will say 6'2", and then when you get there, he's like 5'11" and a half, right? So I think when he measured up to 6'2" and his weight came in, they were like, oh, wow. I think seeing him in practices, they were like, he's a lot more physical than we saw him be a physical player on film. And we think he was taking it easy on his teammates, during practice. He wasn't as physical, but they was like, oh, we know he can get down. They love the athleticism for his size. And I would say the biggest feedback that I got for Rob was a great character that will fit in their locker rooms. I heard a lot of teams came back and said he's a guy that he would get along so well with the rest of the room.
Yeah.
Humble. Very, very humble.
Very humble. Yep.
Very humble.
Yeah, the one team that you were talking about, which you won't name, who was doubting Rob in the beginning, you said that they kept referring to him as the safety, but his versatility really sets him apart from a lot of other prospects. Is there a general consensus from teams on what position he could play or should play on the next level, or are different teams looking at him at a different position?
Many teams are focused on strong safety.
Okay.
I would say the majority are locking in on strong safety. There was, Jackson State gave him the opportunity to demonstrate what he could do on the outside as far as a corner, but he probably wouldn't be utilized as a corner in the NFL. But some teams know that they got the versatility. I think also what he checked the box on was they were like, he has traits that we can use in special teams if nothing else.
Absolutely.
And I told him, your special teams is what's going to keep you.
Yes, sir.
Right. So whether you get, a lot of people fall in love with draft. I want to get drafted. I just had this conversation with Rob today, as we were talking through a team is meeting with him Friday. And I told him, I said, Rob, I want to remind you, it's not about the draft. Over here, we care about you making the team. Some people want to get the lights, the call, the family crying around them on the TV. Yeah. 18 or 32 teams cut their draft picks last year. It means nothing. It's a show for fans, friends, and followers. At the end of the day, we about business. Do you want to make that $1 million next year? That I don't care whether we sign you afterward or not. We're gonna get you the check, but you gotta. It may not be on TV. And as a matter of fact, when you start getting drafted 6th, 7th round, you ain't nothing but a ticker tape on the bottom of the screen. They can't even show your film because they didn't even know you were gonna be picked because 6 and 7 is so hodgepodge. The media doesn't have those lined up. They don't even know. So you may not even be in that pick. And I also share with him that what you see on TV is about 7 or 8 picks behind. So you don't see it live. It's not live. When I'm talking and they're like, we about to take, we on pick. We're about to take these next 2 picks. And on TV, it looks like they still have 4 picks. They've already submitted their cards for those picks. It's just you're delayed in seeing it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think Rob is now, I think he checked a lot of boxes for teams.
That's good.
Good deal. So, talk to us a little bit about the agenda that you have for them building up from now up into the draft. I know Jackson State has its pro day March 26th, that Wednesday, 3:30 p.m. for those who are looking for that specific time frame. Are they expected to participate in the pro day at JSU?
Yes, they will both be participating in the pro day. There's no exclusion on the pro day. There are too many teams coming down and they want to see something. Okay. So they want to see something. And they have their pro day and then they'll end up having we have an 85% rate on local days. The issue is with the local day is that they both went to Jackson State. Okay. So they're not, and Irv went to Wofford as well and went to school in South Carolina. The nearest team is the Panthers. Okay. And even though they practice at Wofford, we're trying to figure out if we can get an exception to get him to the Panthers for a local day. But local days are very important. We know that Louisiana is where Rob finished up his schooling. And so high school. So we also have tried to connect with the Saints. They don't meet the rules for the Saints. So typically what happens is we're always going to get you in your local day. Why is that important? The local day, they're going to do medical sometimes, most of the time. And if they do medical on you, I know that they're going to share medical with all the other teams. That allows you to get drafted. No medical, no draft. A lot of guys don't understand that. So anytime you have a guy that's sitting there day 3 and they're looking at the TV hoping they get drafted, the first question I would ask him is, have you done a medical exam with the team? Does any team have an EKG on file with you? Then the likelihood of you getting drafted high, they would never do that. Okay. So local day is part of that schedule. And then top 30 visits. Right now, coaching conversations are happening. So coaches and teams are allowed to have Zoom calls with players. And so we're setting those up. That allows you to kind of feel the environment and for them to show you love. They can't get you in for a top 30 visit. Then they'll oftentimes do a Zoom call or connect with you via text, introduce themselves and things like that. And then some of the last pieces of marketing sit downs that we do a marketing kit to the national scouts, the directors, and the decision makers. And then we do our last round of calls maybe about 2 weeks out from draft to kind of get things lined up to know. And then we do a pre-draft call with them to kind of say, if you're a PFA, here are the teams we're going with. And here's the criteria we set for it. And you won't hear from me on draft day, but until we got a team. And that's how it goes.
Having said all that, especially with the local days, that's pretty interesting to me. It seems like more of an advantage for someone who happens to be from an area where there's a pro team and puts a different player at a disadvantage, whether that's an HBCU or Power 4 player. But from your perspective, what is the draft process like for an HBCU player compared to a P4 or a Group of 5 player?
It's a little harder because a lot of times you're dealing with some area scouts or some teams do not go into the HBCUs. They just look at film. And where we have the feedback that I've received from the front offices of several teams is that the film quality is not there. So if the film quality is not there and all they're relying on is reviewing the film, or let's say you don't have enough film uploaded, you only uploaded two games. They can only judge your players on 2 games. That's it. And it may be because not that you uploaded it, but another school uploaded it. FAMU plays Florida. Florida uploaded that film, and they may be looking at the Florida guy and go, "Oh, FAMU," and then they go to the FAMU database and there's no film outside of that Florida game. So I think, and that I'm not saying that happened. So FAMU, Rattlers,
right. Just an
come
example.
I'm just saying that there are some schools that do not upload quality film, and so your players do not have a fair advantage. And that's what, if you don't visit the school and you don't have film, your team is erased. So those GAs or whoever's doing statistics, keeping all of the awards updated, putting a biography out for your teams, putting the correct weight, the correct height. Some of them just recreate the same photo year after year. And it's like, no, they want to see the progression of maturity in the guy's face. They want to see what were his success story. Every single player needs a success story at the top of their profile on their team website. And if you don't have that, when they're doing their research, they don't even have that. So those are the hard things. Big 12, ACC, American Athletic, the P4 schools, the P4 and the G5 schools, they got this down pat. They're all about getting their guys to the league. And so they have the resources financially to do that, where our HBCUs don't. And so that's where we step in and we create a profile for them, and we actually share it out to the teams as we're selling them.
Wow. You know what? That actually speaks to the importance of the media directors over there. I was going to shout out ASVP, Brother Austin. Hey, man, listen, we get an opportunity to see. I had a chance to work with him down at the HBCU Legacy Bowl and beyond, but, man, they do a lot. But you just touched on a little bit about what I wanted to ask next. I wanted you to expound a little bit more on some of the things you do to get the guys exposure.
So we co-create articles with teams. So you'll see us co-create articles with Sports Illustrated, Anscape, ESPN. Our 2 guys, Rob and Irv, will be on the NFL Network on Path to Draft. So that, everybody don't get the opportunity to be on the NFL Network on Path to Draft.
I know, right? Yeah.
So we that's relationship with the talent producers to make this happen. And what I want to say there about your agency being connected and knowing that they do this work. When the NFL Networks thinks of HBCU draft players in the draft from HBCUs, who do they call? Agent. I am proud to say, and I'm honored to say, and I'm humbled to say that those talent producers call and say, Rasheeda, you cover HBCUs. We want to be fair to the HBCUs. How do we get a few of them on our show? Oh, I got 2 right here. Irv Mulligan and Rob McDaniel. And then, in all fairness to my other fellow agencies that are working with our guys, is we want them all to come up. And so I threw other names out there. Elijah Williams was one. Morgan State. I don't represent Elijah. I threw last year I threw Mikey Victor out there. We throw, I'm always throwing the names of the guys that I'm hearing the teams talk about that really can shake some things up. And so they will be on Path to Draft. So it's all about marketing, because I know NFL teams keep NFL Network on in their offices all the time. And so they're always looking. And so who is that? And they take the sound bites to say, I kind of like this guy. And when they're trying to make a decision, they're going to look at the film and they're going to pull a lot of that media and say, what are people saying about him? What does it look like out there? Like, what kind of personality is this? You may even have a quarterback that looks at a guy and says, I kind of like him, right? We knew for a fact that Davis Richard last year, I knew that there was a very profound historical quarterback that loved him and wanted him in his locker room to teach him. And unfortunately, he didn't get that opportunity, but I'm gonna leave him to tell that story one day. But that is a story. right? But building their relationships with the media, making sure we get their stories out there, marketing them, calling all the teams, where every single team has been contacted about top 30 visits. And that's why now we're getting the calls like, okay, I can't get them in for a 30, but let's do a call. So, and then just getting them mentally prepared so they don't feel that pressure, because they are carrying a huge weight of being HBCU players that play well, and they got to make a historical stamp for others to come behind. And so make sure that they're well mentally.
Yeah. Rasheeda, you were talking about some of the disadvantages that HBCU players face, and you mentioned the quality of film in some cases. I think Jackson State is fortunate to be top echelon in HBCUs in terms of quality of film. So I don't know if that affects us as much as it may affect some HBCUs, but speak to the HBCU athlete in general who feels like he's good enough to play in the NFL and he's hopeful that he'll be given a fair shot coming from an HBCU. What strides have you seen be made in the past few years, or what strides can you see being made currently to ensure that the significant exposure and opportunity for HBCU players is there?
I think HBCUs is now become, and I want to be careful about this to say that it has now become popular, right? Because we've always had ballers at the HBCU level.
Right.
And there were many that did not get an opportunity. But now I think there's a different lens of now everybody's waking up and go, hey, wait. People are going back to their HBCUs. People are recommitting. We have a little star power with former NFL players. And I will say this, I hope those former NFL players also hire very strong, experienced coaches to make a difference with them, because it's going to take more than star power. It's going to take coaching ability. And it's going to take some of them putting their money into those organizations and bringing money to the table to help those fields get better and so many other things. But what I will say to the HBCU player that's coming around now, I would say you can be found anywhere. Good talent is going to shine.
Yeah.
Good talent is going to shine. And as long as you are committed to what you're supposed to doing, eating right, physical training, discipline, listening to your coaches, and being productive on the field, you will be found, right? Don't necessarily feel like you, just because I went to an HBCU. And I got to say this. Because I fight with scouts about this a lot. Transferring out to play bigger schools, to play more powerful talent, it's a buzzword. And I think leaving your organization where you are coached and developed, that hurts you more, because you just looked at as an insurance policy on a lot of these other teams. You're not their number one person. Because if you were their number one person, they would have came for you out of high school, but they didn't. They waited until you developed and worked with this team, and then they steal your talent. You go over there and you the backup plan to the guy they're already committed to. Be very, very careful leaving your HBCU. There was a scout that told me this. He said HBCU players, FCS players is actually what he said, get stronger year over year over year. What we found is that a lot of times our P4 players are maxed when we get them. They reach their peak talent.
Wow.
And so they're ready to play now in the NFL. But our FCS players, a lot of times we want to get them because they got so much more on the bench that we can develop on, and they last longer in this league. They may start on P squad, but they're going to last way longer than the guy sometimes who came out of P4, and we can only use them for 3 years, first year contract, he's done. But that FCS player can live for 2 contracts. And I was like, you better say that. I don't know the facts on it, but I don't know the facts to really analyze it. But he is a very experienced scout, like player personnel, and his family is rooted in that particular org. So he comes from a long legacy of family that runs that organization.
Man, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
So Rasheeda, do you find that some NFL teams are more open to the idea of drafting or signing HBCU players than others? And if so, do you put more effort into trying to change the mindset, or do you focus on teams who are already receptive?
I do focus. I focus on all teams equally, but I do find that there are a few teams that I've noticed that they pay attention to the HBCU world a little differently, or they're more connected to the HBCU coaches, the coaching staff. And so they trust them. And I've seen organizations where some of our HBCU coaches have interned with and then ended up with jobs over there. And so I noticed they'll stand on the table a little more, or I can get the inside scoop from them to figure out what's going on. But there are some teams that have been receptive. I gotta give the Rams a shout out. You know, Xavier Smith is over there from FAMU. I gotta give the Patriots a shout out for the work that they've done. Those are just a couple organizations that, and there's many more, but those are the ones that I have worked with more directly. The Jets. Oh man, now I'm gonna start naming them. They're gonna kill me. But there are some organizations that you can. There's an active goal to really focus and look and say what's down there. I want the hidden gem. The Commanders right now hot. The Commanders are hot. And I'll even give the Cowboys a shout right now because Marquise Bell's over there, and the Cowboys are paying attention to Jackson State.
Okay.
Hey, Corey, Mike B just got excited about that. That might be part of the Tiger Talk crew.
I got excited. I'm a 49ers fan, but I want my Tigers.
Raiders news.
Oh God, the 49ers. I could go on and on. They're gonna kill me for not naming their organizations.
Right.
But I will tell you, the 49ers as well. Got to throw them out there. Definitely had a great conversation during Combine.
So listen, with the Raiders having this Las Vegas HBCU Classic, I need them to sign some Jackson State Tigers now.
Yeah.
Brother Davis. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, they got a little change in leadership over there too. They lost a good friend of mine that was over there in the front office as a assistant GM.
So, Rasheeda, is there anything else that you like to see from the NFL franchises that could potentially increase the chances of HBCU players being drafted?
I have had there was a debate on whether or not the HBCU Combine should be combined with the NFL National Combine, or if HBCU players should be invited up and things like that. I'm a little torn because I do like them having their own personal attention. I really do, because, and I think the rationale is that they didn't want them to be lost in everybody's, you only get so many interview slots, and we may be in a situation where we have our HBCU players there, but they don't get the interview slots. They're all taken up with the P4 guys, which is 85% of the NFL Combine now. So I don't think that they need to combine, but what I would like to see is even more effort of top brass to commit those formal interviews and the media to be more present at the HBCU Combine. It's growing.
Yes. Because
I was there from the beginning. I've always had a player in the HBCU Combine and the HBCU Legacy Bowl since it started. And so it has grown and it has gotten better. And I would, the HBCU, I'm going to make all the coaching staffs mad. But I do believe they need to have some ambassadors from the NFL coaching realm to coach, because that gets them the direct contact
like that
with those players. Those coaches need to be involved in that game so that they get the direct contact. That is a huge advantage that some of the other bowl games have.
Rasheeda, how far ahead do you scout players? Are you already looking at the juniors, sophomores, even freshmen?
Yeah, we're looking at 2027 right now.
Okay.
We started kind of connecting the dots on some of the 2026, probably late fall. And believe it or not, some of the 2026, they'll tell you like, no, I talked to my mom, I talked to my dad, and that's fine, because technically we're not supposed to make contact and things like that, or they may reach out to us and say, hey, I just want to let you know that we're, when that time comes, I would like to work with you and things like that. So we have started that a little bit, but we're on to 2027. Here in Texas, I'm in Texas, Houston. They allow us to have conversations with players as athlete agent days, as long as you're certified in the state of Texas. Okay. So just as a heads up, another thing that HBCUs could do, have athlete agent days. I can talk to Texas. I can talk to TCU, Houston, Rice.
I think our GM Coach O is listening. He's taking notes right now.
Tell Coach O, bring the athlete agents in so that your guys learn early. It's not a sale to come sign with me. It's more of a, like what we're having now, a real conversation of here's the things you need to do to prepare yourself. Let the PR team come, let the legal team come, the sports attorneys, and educate them, because I find that the biggest gap with our HBCU players is just lack of knowledge, and their families lack of knowledge. They had a great high school football player, they had a great college player, and those parents come at the end of that season and say, he should be first round draft pick. Nah, let me tell you how this really works. We just need to educate.
Yeah. Awesome. And what's next for Lady Lib Sports and Entertainment? What's your vision for the agency in the near future and beyond?
We found our sweet spot in late round PFA picks, or PFA, or free agent rookie minicamp tryout guys. We found our sweet spot there, right? But I think it is time for us to not only, I want the second contract guy, and I even want a high round draft guy from HBCU.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
We want him. We looking for him. We want that guy. And I see it coming. I feel it coming. And we want to continue to expand the agency. I want to bring on at least 2 more agents in the next couple of years. I still am very close to my clients. I don't like to hand them off to other people. And that's sometimes that happens in bigger agencies. And that's why guys feel so left behind. I talk to my clients at least every 2 to 3 days. If you ain't talking to them, somebody else is. And if your agent is not contacting you or talking to you, that's a whole nother issue. but that shows you their level of care. I saw so many guys at the HBCU Combine Legacy Bowl, their agents weren't even present. But I would say that growing our agency and really looking for that guy and really being the SMEs, I would say, the subject matter experts to help not just the guys we represent, but help the whole community be uplifted. That's my goal.
Wow. That's a lot. I really enjoyed this. Any parting words before we get ready to end this interview?
I would say to follow us. Lady Lib 1922. That's LIB as in boy. Lady Lib 1922 on Twitter as well as Instagram. We post a lot of content. We have a blog on there called Agent Knowledge that you can click into and read some of the write-ups. What I use that platform for is just, like I said, educate. I can't represent every player, but I can help families do that. If you have questions, I'm pretty responsive, or my team is very responsive to help you navigate. I can't represent everybody, but I'll do my best to at least direct you to resources. Like right now, if I have any parting words for our HBCU players, a lot of you will not make it to the NFL. That's just a lot of players, period, won't make it to the NFL. Right. But I want you to be open to possibly CFL or UFL. And right now, the CFL is having open workouts across at least 4 or 5 of their teams. Follow those sites, go to those workouts. Even if you're in this draft class and you want to wait to the draft, you can still wait to the draft, but get yourself to that CFL workout. And be open. Those are really my parting words. And for those coming up through the ranks, you know where to find me. But I also want to encourage you to just do the things you need to do to set yourself up for success. Be timely, be productive, and be the best player you can be on the field. On and off the field.
Awesome. Hey, we appreciate this. Thank you for your time, especially during your busiest season. There's no telling how many calls you've missed during this past hour that you've been on with us. So we'll let you get back. I heard the phone buzzing, so we'll let you get back to it. But again, we appreciate it. And Irv and Rob, we're so proud of them, and we're thankful. Honestly, we're so thankful. I know Tiger fans will agree that they have you in their corner. So keep doing what you're doing and keep advocating for HBCUs.
I look forward to attending Pro Day, and my son is coming to visit Jackson State.
Okay.
We'll see. Right. He may be the I love. He's got a lot of invites, but I told him you're gonna go visit Jackson State.
That's all that we ask. At least give us a visit.
Yeah,
And we'll
he
go
said
from
he's
there.
Irv Mulligan 2.0. I
Okay.
said,
All right. Okay. All right. I
So that
like
means
that.
he's
I like that.
so that means he's Walter Payton 3.0.
right. Irv said, send me his film.
Hey, well, look, we're definitely looking forward to it. Definitely, I plan to see you at Pro Day. It'll be fun. We plan on being there.
Yeah,
All
we'll see
right.
you there.
Thank
Okay.
you so much, Mr.
All
Ken
right.
and
We
Corey.
appreciate it.
I appreciate
Thank
y'all.
you. Take care.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.
Tiger Talk TV is presented by BetOnline.